It was October 1st, and I can still remember exactly how it felt. That dry, crisp air that only autumn brings. It has always been my favorite time of year, and it felt even more special because it was the first fall that Liam and I were living together in our new home. We had only moved in a few weeks earlier, and I had this idea. I wanted to surprise him. I wanted him to come home from work and walk into a house glowing with autumn warmth and Halloween charm. I thought it would be sweet and romantic. It was an innocent plan, one that I would come to regret deeply. I stopped by Marshall's and a few random stores, but you know how it is. Seasonal decor is insanely expensive. So I did what anyone would do when trying to save a little money. I went on Facebook Marketplace. Marketplace is like a virtual yard sale where you can find anything. I just typed fall decorations and started scrolling. A few minutes later, one post caught my eye. It didn't look like the others. The photo showed a big green plastic storage bin, the kind people keep in their attics, and it was filled, completely stuffed, with decorations. I clicked it open. The description was short and lazy. Clearing out, selling everything. Then I saw the price. $20, $20 for the entire bin. That wasn't a deal. That was practically free. You know that feeling when you find something so good your brain just stops questioning it altogether. Like you've hit the jackpot and you have to grab it right away. That's exactly how I felt in that moment. At the bottom of the post, there was a small line, selling other items, clearing out. Check my profile. Curiosity got the best of me, and I clicked the seller's page. That's when things started to feel off. First, the items he was selling were a weird mix that made no sense together. There was a nearly new iPhone listed for $700. Right next to it, some used women's clothing. Then a bunch of Christmas decorations. It didn't look like someone cleaning out their own home. It looked like stuff gathered from random places. And his profile itself, it was completely private. The name said Derek. The profile picture wasn't even a face. It was a close-up shot of a gray trucker hat, taken from an odd angle that hid everything but a bit of beard and neck. The cover photo was some blurry, dark image of a lake. No mutual friends. No personal info. Basically, a ghost account. Part of me felt a little uneasy, but the excitement over that $20 deal drowned out the warning bells. I told myself, he's probably just some older guy who doesn't know how to use Facebook. So I messaged him. He replied immediately. So fast, it was almost creepy, like he'd been sitting there waiting for me. I asked what was in the bin, and his answer was short. All sorts of stuff. Table pieces, outdoor decor, etc. No friendliness at all. Blinded by the bargain, I said I could come pick it up today if he was around. He said fine, but that he'd only be home after 9 p.m. because that's when he got off work. 9 at night. Another red flag. Who invites a stranger to their house that late for a marketplace pickup? But again, I reasoned it away. He probably works the night shift. Then he sent me an address. The first thing I did was look it up on Google Maps Street View. Honestly, it wasn't in the best part of town. Pretty rough, actually. But, and this was what calmed me, the house itself looked completely normal. A small, neat, one-story home. In the Street View photo, the lawn was trimmed, and there were even 2 cars parked in the driveway. It looked lived in. It looked safe. That daylight image was all I needed to silence every last doubt. I texted him back, okay, see you at 9. But thank God I had enough sense left to do one thing. I wasn't going alone. I called my best friend, Jenna. I told her I needed help carrying the bin, but truthfully, I just wanted someone with me. That was probably the smartest decision I made that entire night. I drove over to pick up Jenna. The trip took about half an hour. At first, everything felt normal. We had the music up, talking about random things, laughing like we always did. But as soon as we left the highway and started heading into the neighborhood Derek had sent me, something in the air shifted. The farther we went, the worse it felt. The streetlights grew sparse, some flickering, some dead completely. The houses looked older, neglected, like no one cared anymore. Jenna, she's always the blunt one, started to joke, but I could hear the tension under her voice. "You sure this $20 is worth getting kidnapped for?" she said with a shaky laugh. I forced out a laugh too, saying, "It's just an old neighborhood, that's all." But honestly, I was starting to feel uneasy. This was the kind of place where you lock the car doors and just hope to drive through without stopping. By then, it was pitch black outside. When we were just a few minutes away, my phone lit up. I glanced down. It was a message from Derek. It said only one thing: "When you get here, you can come right in." My heart skipped. I showed Jenna the message. She read it and her face went pale. "What the hell?" she said. "Who tells two random girls to just walk into their house at 9 o'clock at night, especially in a place like this?" It felt wrong. Not friendly wrong, predatory wrong, but like bait. We both agreed right then. No way. No matter what, we were staying outside and ringing the doorbell. We turned onto a street. It was empty. Dead quiet. As we slowed to find the house number, I noticed something that sent a chill crawling up my spine. The driveway. It was empty. In the Google Maps photo, the one that had made me feel safe, there were 2 cars parked there. But now, nothing. Just bare concrete swallowed by darkness. The house itself sat there in eerie stillness. There was light inside, but not the warm kind. It was a sick, yellow glow leaking through tightly drawn curtains, like the house was hiding something. I parked at the curb, a short distance away, but didn't shut off the engine. I was too afraid to. I texted Derek, trying to steady my hands. "We're here. Can you bring it outside?" We both held our breath, eyes locked on the house. Seconds dragged on, heavy and silent. Then, we saw it. One of the front windows. The curtain, it moved. It wasn't a big motion, just the faintest twitch, like someone had pressed their face against the glass, parting the fabric to peek out at us. Then it fell back into place. My skin went cold. He knew we were there. He was watching us from inside. "No, no," Jenna whispered, gripping the car door handle. "Let's go. Let's go now." And just as she said that, we heard it. A soft creak. The front door. It had opened. Just a narrow gap of darkness, but enough for me to see the void beyond it. No one came out. Then, as if to twist the knife, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Derek. "I'm at the door. You can come in." The situation was pure nightmare. An open door leading into darkness. A message urging us inside. Someone hiding behind those curtains. Every instinct in me screamed drive. But for some stupid reason, maybe shock, maybe denial, I turned off the car. The silence that followed was suffocating. "We're not going in," Jenna said firmly. No, I stammered. "We'll just talk at the door. Grab the bin and leave." I said it mostly to convince myself. We both stepped out. The October air hit us sharp and cold. We walked up the driveway, my heart hammering against my ribs. When we reached the porch, I called out, "Derek, hi, we're here for the decorations." Nothing. Just that slit of darkness where the door hung open. Jenna tugged my sleeve. "Let's go. I mean it. Forget the $20. I nodded. She was right. "Yeah, let's go." We turned around, ready to head back to the car. That's when a voice came from inside the house. "Hey, yeah, I'm here. In here." It was low and gravelly, like something was caught in his throat. We spun back. Standing in the doorway was a man, but he didn't step into the light. He hovered there, half hidden, the brim of a cap casting his face in shadow. He lifted a hand and motioned for us to come in, slowly, lazily. Then he opened the door wider, but instead of coming out, he stepped backward and disappeared into the darkness. We froze on the porch, staring into that black hallway, and then, like idiots drawn to a flame, we moved forward. We left the front door open behind us. It felt like our only lifeline. The moment we crossed the threshold, a smell hit us hard. Mothballs, old fabric, that heavy stale scent of an elderly person's home, but underneath it was something sour, rotten, something wrong. Then came the sound of footsteps. Not walking, running, heavy, urgent steps, thudding into another room deeper inside the house. And then that same raspy voice again, drifting out of the darkness. "It's in here. Come on in." That voice, the one that said come in, I swear to God, it didn't sound human. It was thick and rough, like it rattled inside his chest when he spoke. I grabbed Jenna's arm. If she hadn't been there, I think I would have passed out right there on the spot. I made sure she was right beside me, and the two of us, like complete idiots, started moving toward the room where that voice had come from. We stepped in, and the scene was strange. It was a living room, but the only light came from a tiny lamp way in the corner, throwing out a weak yellow glow. Everything in there looked old. A faded red rug, heavy, outdated furniture. But none of that was what scared us. It was the smell. The second we entered, it hit us full force. That faint, sour odor from the doorway, it was 100 times worse now. It wasn't mothballs anymore. It was thick, rotten, sweet in the most horrifying way. It was the smell of something dead, long dead. I'm not exaggerating. It was the smell of death itself. It clawed down my throat and made me gag instantly. And there, in the middle of the room, we saw him, Derek. It was the first time I got a good look at him, and he looked awful, tall, thin to the point of skeletal, wearing a filthy t-shirt. His beard was unkempt, and his eyes, God, those eyes, they were empty, lifeless, staring at us from under the brim of that gray cap. He was standing on a plastic storage bin, not beside it, on top of it, legs spread, balanced on the lid. And that's when I realized, the bin, it wasn't the one from the photo. The one on Facebook had been green. This one was bright red, with a mismatched green lid. My stomach dropped. It was a trap. Derek smirked, the corner of his mouth twitching upward. "Here's your stuff," he rasped. He patted the lid of the bin and motioned for me to come closer, like he wanted me to open it. That was when my brain finally started working again. I stepped back, my voice trembling. This isn't the one from the photo." He tilted his head, that smirk fading. "So what? Still $20. You open it," I said, trying to sound firm while pulling Jenna backward toward the door. He just stared at us. The silence felt thick, heavy. I could hear Jenna's breathing beside me. Then he laughed, a dry, rasping sound that made my skin crawl. "Well," he said, mocking, "you're no fun at all." Those words, "You're no fun at all." That was when I knew we needed to run. This wasn't a bad sale. This was his game. When he saw us backing away, his tone snapped. "Don't want to see it." And as we turned, he bent down and lifted the lid. We didn't look. Thank God we didn't. But we couldn't escape the smell. It rolled out of that bin like a wave, thick, choking, unbearable. It was so strong it felt like it had weight. It hit us in the face, and my stomach lurched so hard I thought I'd throw up right there. We didn't need to see it. We knew it wasn't fall decorations. Jenna screamed. We bolted. We ran through the hall, stumbling in the dark, out the front door, down the steps, sprinting for the car. Jenna yelled, "Hurry! Hurry! Drive!" I was shaking so badly, I dropped the keys twice before getting them in. When the engine roared to life, the headlights flared across the house. I glanced once at the rearview mirror. The front door was closed, tight, like nothing had ever happened. He didn't chase us. He just closed the door. I slammed the gas. Tires screeched against the pavement as we tore out of that street, out of that neighborhood. Neither of us sang a word until the bright lights of the highway finally came into view. That night, I told Liam everything. He could see it, how shaken we were, how pale. First he was angry, then scared. He asked for the address. I didn't want to give it. I begged him not to go. He promised he wouldn't do anything stupid, that he just wanted to look it up. The messages were still on Facebook, so I gave it to him. The next day, Liam came home late from work. He looked different. I'd never seen that expression before. He said he'd broken his promise. On the way home, he'd driven by the house. In broad daylight, he parked, walked up, and rang the bell. And here's the part that still keeps me up at night. An elderly woman answered, completely normal looking, confused. Liam asked her about Derek, about selling the decorations. She had no idea what he was talking about. She insisted she lived there alone, had for the past 15 years, ever since her husband passed away. She said there was no one named Derek there. Liam knew I hadn't imagined it. He'd seen the messages. He knew it was the exact same address. So who was Derek? How had he been inside that woman's house? Was he hiding somewhere in there while she lived her normal life? Or did he break in when she was gone? And that red bin, the one he stood on, what the hell was inside it? I'll never know. And honestly, I think not knowing is the most terrifying part of all. It was 2019. I remember that year so clearly because it was the first time I truly felt what independence was. I was 22, freshly out of college, and living alone for the first time in Asheville, North Carolina. I had a temporary job lined up, but honestly, that was just an excuse. What I really wanted was freedom, a clean break from everything I knew. And Asheville was perfect for that. I had a tiny apartment downtown, but what I loved most were the mountains. North Carolina is filled with hiking trails, each one daring you to go just a little farther, explore just a little deeper. I had already covered most of the ones near town, but there was one I had been saving, DuPont State Forest. And one day, I decided today's the day. It was a random Wednesday in mid-October. Fall had already arrived. The leaves were turning gold and crimson. Most importantly, I had the day off. And since it was the middle of the week, I figured the trails would be empty. That idea, to have the forest all to myself, felt almost sacred. Looking back now, I realized that the isolation I was craving so badly was the very thing that made everything go wrong. The drive took about an hour, just me, the hum of the road, and the radio fading in and out as I went deeper into the Appalachian backroads. When I arrived, the parking lot was nearly empty. Only one other car sat there, coated with a thin layer of dew. I found the trailhead and stepped in. Instantly, the air shifted. It wasn't peaceful. It was too quiet. The kind of silence that hums in your ears. No birds, no rustling of squirrels, only the crunch of my boots on damp soil and the slow drip of water from the trees. The sky was overcast, the air thick with leftover rain from the week before. But that was part of the plan. Rain meant the waterfalls would be raging. This trail led to two of the big ones, Triple Falls and High Falls. After a few days of storms, I knew they'd be roaring. I had only been walking for a few minutes when I heard it, the distant thunder of rushing water. Soon, Triple Falls came into view. It was breathtaking, pouring down over 3 separate tiers of rock. Fun fact, they filmed a scene from the Hunger Games here. But in that moment, it felt like my own secret sanctuary. I found a dry rock, sat down, pulled out my phone to film a little, took a few photos. I was just soaking it all in, and right when I was completely at peace, I saw her. Across the trail, tucked deeper into the woods, stood a woman. She was just standing there, watching me. Not glancing, not curious. Watching, unblinking, unmoving. My chest tightened. I gave a small wave. That awkward, polite kind of wave like, "Oh, guess I'm not alone out here after all." She didn't respond. Didn't wave back. Didn't nod. Nothing. Her stare was hollow. Like she wasn't even seeing me, but something behind me. Then, slowly, she turned and started walking. Not along the trail. Straight into the woods. Into the thick, dark brush where there was no path at all. She just kept moving, almost gliding, until the trees swallowed her whole. I sat there frozen for a long moment. Then I tried to laugh it off. Probably another hiker, I told myself. Maybe she had to pee or something. Yeah, weird. Sure. But I'd driven an hour to get here. I was 22, determined not to let some creepy old lady ruin my day. So, I decided to keep going. I tried to shake off the strange feeling. I told myself, I drove an hour to get here. I'm not letting some weird old lady ruin this. Besides, I wasn't even tired yet, and I'd only covered part of the trail. I stood up, brushed the dirt off my pants, and headed back to the path, careful not to look toward the woods where she had disappeared. I didn't want to risk slipping on the wet rocks around Triple Falls, so I started hiking uphill toward the next spot, High Falls. But that calm I'd felt earlier was gone, completely. The silence of the forest didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt alive, watching. Every step made the back of my neck prickle. I kept glancing between the trees, half expecting, or maybe half dreading, to see her again. About 15 minutes later, I reached High Falls. It was even more breathtaking, a wall of white water crashing down into a misty pool below. The spray hit my face, cool and sharp. I tried to focus on the beauty of it, took out my phone, filmed a few clips. I found another dry rock, sat down, tried to steady myself. I'd been there for a few minutes, scrolling through the videos I'd taken, and then that feeling returned. 10 times stronger. The feeling of being watched. I looked up, and my heart just dropped. Across the trail, in a completely different spot, deeper in the trees, she was there again. How the hell had she gotten there before me? She had walked the other direction, straight into the forest. There was no way she could have circled around without me noticing. But there she was, standing between two tall pines, like she'd been waiting for me. And that stare. God, that stare. It wasn't empty anymore. It was full, heavy, filled with something like judgment, almost anger, like I had trespassed, like I had done something terribly wrong. This time, I didn't wave. I couldn't move. Instead, I did what everyone does when they panic. I looked down at my phone, pretending to be busy, scrolling, watching nothing. My hands started to shake. I couldn't focus. Every part of me screamed, "Please go away. Please don't come closer." After maybe 10 seconds, I couldn't help it. I looked up again. She was gone. Not walking away, not hiding. Gone, completely. Like she had just dissolved into the air. Between those two trees, nothing. Okay, now I was officially terrified. This wasn't weird anymore. This was wrong. I didn't want to stay another second. I jumped to my feet and started walking, almost running, up the trail. I just needed to keep moving. Eventually, I reached another landmark, the covered bridge. It was this old wooden bridge stretching over the river, the kind you'd see on a postcard. For a brief moment, Its quiet charm calmed me down. I stopped, caught my breath, told myself I was overreacting. I drank some water, filmed a short clip of the bridge, and when I lowered my phone, looked toward the end of the bridge I'd just crossed, she was there. This time, not in the woods. This time she was standing right at the entrance of the bridge, maybe 50 feet away, blocking my way back. I swear she hadn't been there seconds earlier. I had just looked that way. I hadn't heard a single footstep on that hollow wooden bridge. There was no way she could have gotten there silently. Now she was close, too close, and I could see her face clearly. The look wasn't judgment anymore. It was hate. Pure, burning hatred. Like my existence itself disgusted her. My fear suddenly twisted into something else, panic-fueled anger. What the hell is going on? I shouted, starting toward her, trying to sound brave. "Excuse me," my voice cracked. "Do you need help or something?" The second I said it, the word excuse barely left my mouth. She turned and walked away. But the way she moved, it wasn't right. It wasn't the shuffle of an old woman. It was too fast, too smooth. She glided, that's the only word for it, glided down the trail I had just come from. For a brief, foolish second, I thought she might be mentally ill, that maybe she needed help. But something in the way she moved told me the opposite, that I was the one in danger. I leaned against the bridge rail for a few minutes, my heart pounding. I'd been hiking for 45 minutes, and now I had to go back, 45 minutes the same way she went. Every step on the way down was agony. I passed a younger woman walking her dog, a golden retriever, and I swear I almost cried from relief. A normal person, a normal dog. The dog wagged its tail at me, and just seeing that felt like touching reality again. I stopped her. "Excuse me. Sorry," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Have you seen an older woman around here? Grayish blonde hair, maybe in her 60s? She smiled politely. "No, sorry. I've been on this trail about 20 minutes, and you're the first person I've seen." I felt a wave of desperation. "It's just, I keep seeing this woman," I said. "She keeps appearing out of nowhere, staring at me, then disappearing." She gave me a careful smile. "Oh, that's really weird." The way she said it made it clear she thought I was the weird one. She pulled her dog a little closer. I realized how insane I sounded. "Yeah, anyway, have a good one," I said. We both gave that awkward little laugh before parting ways. As soon as she and her dog disappeared down the bend, the paranoia slammed back. Every rustle, every snapping twig made me flinch. I kept glancing over my shoulder, absolutely convinced I'd see her again, lurking somewhere in the trees, and I passed an older man who smiled and nodded politely. He looked completely normal, which somehow made me feel even worse. Aside from him, nothing, just silence. Deep, suffocating silence. Finally, I made it back to the parking lot. I jumped into my car, locked the doors, started the engine. The tires screeched as I tore out of there. That night, I had a date with a girl I'd been seeing. We went to a local bar, drank pumpkin beer, watched baseball. The lights, the noise, the crowd, it felt like medicine. I tried to laugh it off. I even told her about the woman on the trail, turned it into a joke. And then she vanished like some kind of old ninja. I said. She laughed, thought it was funny. And honestly, in that moment, it was funny, harmless, just a weird story from a hike. I almost convinced myself that's all it was. Almost. Then I went home. That night, I came home after the date. The laughter, the warm lights, the pumpkin beer, they had almost washed away the cold from the woods. I'd managed to turn it all into a joke, and for a while, it worked. I told myself it was just a weird old lady, and the rest was my imagination filling in the blanks, and I locked the door, checked it twice, Everything was fine. I went to bed, almost believing it. I've always been a deep sleeper. Once I'm out, I'm gone till morning. So when my eyes snapped open in the middle of the night, I knew instantly something was wrong. The room was pitch black. You know that heavy silence that sits in a dark room when you wake for no reason? That kind of silence that feels alive? That's what it was. My heart started pounding before I even understood why. And then I heard it. A sound. A faint rustle right at the foot of my bed. Like fabric shifting. I froze. Held my breath. My eyes strained against the dark. A thin, orange glow from the streetlight slipped through the blinds. Just enough for me to see. I looked up and saw a shape. Someone was standing at the end of my bed. I can't describe what that felt like. It wasn't fear. It was like everything inside me just fell away. My blood turned to ice. She was standing there, facing me. I couldn't see her face, but I knew. I knew she was staring right at me. It was her, the woman from the woods. How the hell did she get in here? The paralysis shattered into raw panic. I started screaming. Not just yelling, screaming until my throat burned. I kicked and scrambled backward, pressing myself against the headboard, desperate to put space between us. And then, she turned, slowly, deliberately, and she walked out of the room. No rush, no running, just stepped into the hallway and disappeared into the dark. I stopped screaming, left gasping for air, heart hammering so hard it hurt. I fumbled for the bedside lamp. The yellow light flicked on. The room was empty. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. Nothing. Just that heavy, awful silence. The fear twisted into something else. Angry adrenaline. Someone had broken into my home. I grabbed the small knife from my nightstand and got up. I turned on every light I passed. Hallway, living room, kitchen. The apartment blazed with light. No one. I checked the closet. Nothing. Behind the couch. Nothing. Under the bed. Nothing. And here's the worst part. The front door was still locked. From the inside, the balcony door bolted. There was no way anyone could have entered or left. I didn't know what to do. It was nearly 4 a.m. When I called my dad, I just needed to hear a sane voice. He answered, groggy but concerned. Dad, I said, my voice trembling. I think I just saw her, in my room. I told him everything. The woman in the park, the paranoia, the figure at the end of my bed. He listened quietly, then said what any reasonable father would. He told me I must have been dreaming. He explained something called a hypnagogic hallucination, when you wake suddenly and your brain is still half asleep, projecting your fears into the room around you. And if she looked like the woman from the park, that only proves it, he said. Your mind's been stuck on that memory. It just replayed it for you. You scared yourself. And you know what? That explanation made perfect sense. It was logical. It was the only thing that made sense. I'd been shaken up. My brain had tricked me. It was just a nightmare. A vivid, awful one. I didn't sleep in my bedroom that night. I pushed my dresser against the door. Just in case, I slept on the couch, with the TV on. 2 days later, my mom called. Her voice was shaky. She'd been crying. Her sister in Germany, my Aunt Elsa, had passed away. I'd never met Aunt Elsa. She was the black sheep of the family, distant, estranged. She hadn't left Germany in over 25 years. I didn't even know what she looked like. My mom and uncle flew there for the funeral. A week later, she came back home. She brought a few keepsakes, photos, a small prayer card from the funeral. She handed it to me. I looked at the face on the card and felt my insides drop out of my body. It was her. Not someone who looked like her. Not similar. It was exactly her. The gray blonde hair, the eyes, that stare. This story shook my whole family. especially because I'd already told my dad everything. The bedroom incident, every detail of her face, before we got the call about Aunt Elsa's death. My dad's logical explanation, the one I'd clung to like a lifeline, fell apart completely. He had no words. I was raised Catholic, though never very devout. But this rattled me. I don't know what I saw. A warning? A goodbye? Something trapped between worlds? All I know is that it was real. And it made me wonder, what do I actually believe in? Have you ever looked back at one of your old decisions and thought, what the hell was I thinking? I have. And this story is about the dumbest and scariest decision of my life. It started with me and my best friend, Matt. We weren't just friends, we were brothers. We'd known each other since we were 10. And by 21, we were roommates. We lived in Brunswick, Georgia, the town we both grew up in. Brunswick is the kind of small coastal town people love to say is a great place to grow up. And maybe they're right, but when you're 21, a great place to grow up means a boring place to live. It wasn't a bad town, just slow. You felt stuck in a swamp of sameness, every day a repeat of the one before. And when you're that bored, you start looking for trouble. In Brunswick, trouble had a shape. It was a house. Everyone in town knew about it. A creepy old place sitting apart from the others on a quiet street. It didn't belong there. While most homes were one-story ranches, this one was a decaying Victorian, all sharp angles and dark windows. It looked like it had been built in another century, and somehow misplaced here. It had been abandoned longer than anyone could remember, and naturally, we made up stories about it. That someone had died inside, that it was haunted, that the last family who lived there went insane. The usual kid rumors, but a tiny part of you still believed them. Then came October, Halloween season. The whole town buzzed with festivities, haunted houses at the fairgrounds, corn mazes, costume contests. But for me and Matt, at 21, all of that felt fake. We wanted something real. That Tuesday night, Matt turned to me, a beer in hand, and said, "Friday night. We're going inside that house." I didn't hesitate. So Friday night, after work, the plan was on. We both grabbed baseball bats to bring along. It sounded ridiculous, but it gave us a false sense of courage, armor against whatever waited in the dark. We stopped at a convenience store, bought snacks and a six-pack. Classic gear for two idiots about to do something stupid. We drove to the street, but didn't park out front. Instead, we left the car a few blocks away, just in case someone saw us. The neighborhood was sparse, big old properties spaced far apart, perfect for sneaking around unseen. We stuffed a few beers into our backpacks and slid the bats along the sides so no one would notice. Two guys wandering around at midnight with bats would attract attention. We crept down the street, whispering, our voices swallowed by the night. The street was pitch black. No streetlights, no porch lights. The only glow came from our phone flashlights, throwing narrow tunnels of light a few feet ahead. In less than 5 minutes, we were standing before it. The front yard was chaos, patches of bare dirt tangled with waist-high weeds. The smell of rot and damp earth hung heavy, even from outside. We circled around to the back, looking for a way in. Doing it out front, in plain view of the street, felt like a bad idea. That's when we saw it, the back door. To our surprise, it wasn't locked. In fact, it was cracked open, just a little. We froze. Everyone knew the house was abandoned. A place left empty for decades should have been boarded up, sealed tight. But an unlocked door, a door slightly open. It felt almost like an invitation. We looked at each other for a second. The door was slightly open. This was the moment, the point of no return. We could have turned around, gone back to the car, cracked open a beer, and laughed about how we almost did something stupid. But we didn't. Matt took a breath, and pushed the door gently. It groaned, a sound that felt almost mournful, and the air inside spilled out. It hit instantly. The cold. Outside was a normal October night, but inside, it was dry, biting cold. And then came the smell, mold, dust from decades past, and something far worse, a sweet, rotting stench. Faint, but unmistakable, like meat that had been dead for far too long. We switched on our flashlights. Their weak beams struggled to cut through the thick darkness. Dust floated in the air like a heavy fog. The house was a maze. The layout made no sense. Hallways bent at strange angles. Doors sat in places no architect would ever put them. I felt disoriented right away, even though we'd barely stepped into the kitchen. Matt whispered, "Hey." I heard something. I listened. Only the wind howling outside. "Heard what?" "I don't know," he said, pointing his flashlight toward a dark hallway to the left. Like footsteps upstairs. And then Matt did the one thing you never, ever do in a horror movie. He split off. "I'll go check." Matt, wait. But he was already gone. His flashlight beam danced for a moment, then vanished around a corner. And just like that, I was alone. The silence of the house pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my chest. I told myself I should look around too. "See you upstairs," I muttered into the dark, though I wasn't sure if he could hear me. I moved through the first floor, keeping close to the walls. The floral wallpaper was peeling, hanging down like dead skin. I entered the living room. The furniture was still there, a dust-covered sofa, a lamp knocked over on its side. But it looked like someone had gone through the place. Cushions overturned, drawers pulled open. Someone had been here. I followed a narrow hallway toward the back. It was so tight, I had to turn sideways to squeeze through. I stepped into a bedroom. God, it was cramped. The bed took up almost the entire space. The mattress yellowed with age. And the smell, stronger here, thick and sour. There was something deeply personal about this room, something sad. I opened the nightstand drawer. Mostly trash, old papers, crumpled newsprint. But in the last drawer, I found something. A tiny leather child's shoe. Just one. A chill crept up my spine. Who leaves behind only one shoe? I backed out of the room quickly. Right then, I heard Matt's voice echo faintly from somewhere above. "I'm heading upstairs." "All right," I called back, my voice cracking. He didn't realize we'd split up. Now we were on opposite ends of the house. I returned to the hallway. 2 more doors. The first, a bathroom. The stench of ammonia and mold hit so hard I slammed it shut immediately. And then, the last door. It stood at the end of the hall, different from the others. The wood was darker, thicker, with an old-fashioned latch. On the outside, it looked important. Curiosity. That stupid curse. The rational part of me screamed, "Go find Matt. Get out of here." But the other part, the one that brought me here in the first place, won. I opened it. A narrow staircase led down into pitch black. The basement. Screw it, I told myself. Just a minute. I started descending. Each step groaned and popped beneath my weight. But beneath the sound of my own movement, there was something else. A faint buzzing, a whispering hiss. Halfway down, I froze. There was light below, not from my flashlight. It was dim, orange, and flickering. My heart stopped. Then I did something I still regret. I turned my flashlight off. Darkness swallowed me whole, except for that faint glow, flickering from the bottom of the stairs. Candlelight. Terrified but unable to stop myself, I kept moving, holding my breath, trying not to make a sound. The floor at the bottom was cold concrete. I peered around the wall separating the stairwell from the rest of the basement, and I saw it. On a small wooden table stood 2 tall candles, their flames trembling. But that wasn't the first thing I noticed. The first thing I saw was what sat beside them. A rocking chair, old, splintered, and it was moving, back and forth, slow, steady, creak, creak. Someone was sitting in it. Their back faced me. I couldn't see their face, only the outline of a head, shoulders, and a hand resting on the arm of the chair, pale, almost translucent. The fingers were long, thin, their dirty nails curling at the tips. The hand just sat there, relaxed, as the chair continued to move. Creak, creak, as if it had been waiting for me all along. I couldn't breathe. My mind stopped working. It screamed only one word: run. I had to get out. I started backing up, spinning around, desperate to find the first step in the dark. My legs shook so hard I nearly collapsed. My foot hit the stair. The creak that followed sounded like a gunshot. I froze, held my breath, listened. The rocking continued below. Creak, creak. Steady, unbothered, like it didn't care that I was there, like I was nothing more than a fly. I stepped back again. Creak. The chair kept moving. Halfway up now, my heart pounding so hard I could taste blood. Almost there. Just a few more steps, and then, snap. A sharp crack, loud enough to echo. A step had given way. I stopped, teeth clenched, waiting for the chair to stop, waiting for a scream, waiting for the sound of footsteps on the cold concrete. Nothing. Silence. The rocking had stopped. God. It stopped. And somehow, that silence was worse than anything else. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I crawled, clawed, scrambled up the last steps, my fingers digging into the wood. I burst out at the top, gasping for air. My shaking hand grabbed the door handle, and for some reason, I looked back. Just once. Pitch black. The basement swallowed itself in darkness. The candles were out. In the few seconds I'd turned my back and climbed those stairs, it had stood up, in the dark, and blown the candles out. It wasn't in the chair anymore. It was moving. I didn't just close the door, I slammed it. I grabbed the old rusted latch on the outside and threw it shut with a heavy clang. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I thought it would slow it down. Then I ran. Panic. Pure panic. "Matt!" I screamed. "No more whispering. Matt, where are you?" No answer. Oh no. No. A new kind of fear hit. Cold, sharp, absolute. My brain screamed, "It got him. It's upstairs." I found the main staircase and nearly fell as I tore up it. "Matt!" And then he stepped out from a dark room at the end of the hall, flashlight in hand, looking confused. "What the hell are you yelling about?" I didn't let him finish. I grabbed his shirt, my voice breaking. "No time. Someone's in the basement. We have to go, now." The look on my face, the terror in my voice. He understood instantly. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. "Back door," he said. Matt ran first. I followed close behind. We barreled down the stairs, sprinting for the kitchen where the back door waited. But to get there, we had to pass the hallway. We had to pass that door. We both saw it at the same time. Both stopped dead. He wasn't in the basement anymore. He was standing there, right in front of the basement door I'd just locked. Just standing. A tall, dark figure silhouetted in the weak light from the window. We couldn't see a face, just a man, silent, still, between us and the exit. Time slowed to nothing. And then I screamed, "Run!" I shoved Matt forward. We didn't care about anything else. We crashed into furniture, stumbled, fell. Matt's gasping and swearing filled the air. We tore through the kitchen, slammed through the back door, and tumbled into the yard. Cold night air flooded our lungs. But we didn't stop. We sprinted through the overgrown grass, running for our lives toward the car. The metal bat clanged in the backpack. Neither of us dared to look back. We reached the car. My hands shook so hard, I almost snapped the key in half trying to jam it into the ignition. "Start it. Drive," Matt screamed. I threw it in reverse, tires screeching loud against the pavement, and we were gone. We didn't say a word for miles. On the drive back, my heart still pounding, I told him everything. The chair, the hand, the candles going out. Matt just kept repeating, "Jesus Christ." What the hell was that? He believed me, because he'd seen the figure at the doors. We never called the cops. What would we even say? Was it some squatter? Maybe. But what kind of person sits in a pitch-black basement, rocking in a chair, lighting candles? Just waiting? And how? How did he get out from behind that locked door and stand there in the hall? I don't have an answer. And honestly, I don't want one. We'll never know, and me. I never went anywhere near that street again.